All right. Well, thank you so much for joining, everyone. Welcome to our technical council meeting. Today is 29th, almost the end of April. Um, Today's primary focus is going to be a workshop for features, but also wanted to give you a quick overview of the standards repo that that was been working on this week to put together, and standards repo here, as well as we wanted to go through invocation standard and get some feedback, but we may have to delay that until next week when Jordan is available. And then we'll go through the features workshop with Joe. So just really quick, if we go to a technical console um, README page, I updated that to now include the link to the standards documentation. That directs directly to the standards specification repo, but in the specification repo now there is a standard directory, and the standard directory is organized by the categories that we've specified already for the standards, and there is a README file with the table of content that's all linked up. So if we go to and there is a README file within each directory. So if we point to that, you can immediately see that. Obviously, most of that is in to-do status. The one that had been updated is the client standard. Oops, well, I guess it's not completely working yet. Client standard, and we added the invocation standard that we've worked on last week. And this is the one that wanted to get some feedback on today. Um, so that's the first set of changes. In addition to this, I've made some changes to the statuses. The reason for that is because the request was to have a more specific standard statuses for standards and features. So I created a new field called standard status, which contains the following statuses: need description, initial feedback, need details, final feedback, and accepted. And similarly for features, there is a feature status that has slightly different list of statuses: needs description, needs draft, initial feedback, applying feedback, final review, and accepted. And this was proposed by the team last week. So I incorporated that into the project. Those are the changes to the project and the repos. Any questions, concerns, or any feedback would be appreciated if you see anything that needs to be modified based on what I just presented. All looks good. All right, so my question, oh, and then in terms of scheduling, this week has three discussion points scheduled. One with Jordan on Thursday on the invocation standard, and we have two more coming up, workshops coming up actually later this afternoon um, for URI standard and URI resolver standard with Jordan and Yuri. All right, I think that's it for my updates. And with that being said, I'm going to turn it over to Joe to start the workshop. So Joe, do you want to share your screen?
Yeah.
Okay, let me go ahead and stop.
Okay. All right. So last week we had identified, these five standards as critical. I think the status is pretty much up to date on these. And, what I was hoping we could do today is, review the ones for the folks that are here and decide what our next steps are, and then go ahead and, take maybe a half hour to work on feature, um, the feature design. So I think, Let's see, who do we got here today? All right. So, do we want to just go through these one by one real quick and sort of do a level set, and then we can, start our workshop, and then maybe work on this stuff for about a half hour, and then review our progress. So I think static. Um, so it seems like for this one we have a description, right? But is this the full design? I don't think this is the full specification, right?
No, yeah, no.
So are you comfortable working on this today? Or would you prefer to
Yeah,
work on a different one?
yeah, sure, yep.
Okay, and then we have the multi-client ecosystem support. So it seems like we have a good description for this. So the description is complete, but I don't think this is the full design, right? What do you think, Nestor? Nestor's on today, right? Yeah.
I'm sorry, I just got back. Could you say that again?
So looking at the multi-client ecosystem support, it looks like we have a good description here, but this is not the full design, is it?
Nope, it is not.
Okay. So do you want to work on this today during the workshop here?
Um, um, so I'm understanding that we are going through the features right now, and we're gonna go like through the other parts of the standard later in later today.
Well, we're kind of doing week on, week off. So this week is our features week. So the last time we met for features was
Oh,
2 weeks ago.
oh,
And
okay, got it. Yep, sure,
so I,
absolutely.
The only thing
so I
is
was,
now that we have everybody here, maybe the last 10 minutes of the meeting we can dedicate to reviewing one standard that's available, which is the invocation standard, and just go collect the
Cool.
feedback. Joe, so maybe let's
Yeah,
reserve 10 minutes at the end.
then I can certainly work today on the multi-client ecosystem support and participate in the review in the last 10 minutes or so
okay.
of the other invocation center thing.
And then Polywrap integration testing framework. So here, we have a good description here as well, but I don't think so. I think the description is good, right? But we don't yet have the specifications, right? So, Niraj, do you want to work on this one today during the workshop? Continuing
Yeah.
with defining the specification, and then let's see. So, actually, which one do you prefer to work on, Nestor? The multi-client or the improve error tracebacks?
On the multi-client, I think that the improver tracebacks is not as critical or in need of drafting anymore. Yeah.
Okay. So this one, I'm gonna actually bump this down so not so we can reflect that. We'll make that one high, and then you're gonna work on the static and dynamic URIs, right, Jelly? So maybe not the schema artifact today. Which one do you prefer to work on today?
Um, yeah, that's a good question. I actually think that the schema build artifact is more important.
Okay.
Um, yeah, because I think we'll probably want to do that for release. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, I'll work on that today.
And then this one's gonna be pushed down a little bit in priority, right?
Uh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I'll get it to drag here. All right. Well, do you folks want to take a half hour for like heads down work, or is there conversation required for any of these in particular? All right. Sounds like heads down then. So
Awesome.
let's get going, and we're all here if you have questions or concerns. Okay, so we're about halfway through our workshop time. So just, reminding everybody, if you have any questions or items with the feature that you're working on, just feel free to speak up and we'll dive into those in particular. I know that Eugene would like to use, the last few minutes of this meeting to discuss the standards stuff. So I'm wondering, do you folks want to do a initial review of the stuff that you put together today? Maybe we could just, do a round robin. Um, who wants to go first?
I'd like to go second. I'm just finishing up some stuff, but I definitely want to share.
Okay, great. We have a number two position. Who wants to be in number one? Niraj? Kelly?
Yeah, I feel comfortable going.
All right,
I can share my screen really quick.
that'd be great.
Uh, Actually, I'm on my laptop. Let's see. I will not be able to record. Okay, 1 sec. I have to reboot Discord. Sorry, 1 sec.
Sure.
Okay, can you see my screen?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So for this description, I was basically just kind of outlining um, the main motivation for changing how the build artifact looks. And so currently, the schema build artifact is a GraphQL file. And so here it just shows like an example. And you can click on it to see what the current schema looks like. And then basically saying storing the schema using GraphQL has the following limitations. It's inefficient, it's not very portable, and it's not very compatible. So, it's inefficient because it requires complex parsing, and not only complex but also multi-stage parsing. It's not very portable because GraphQL parsers are not very prevalent, and it's not very compatible because if we add or remove features from the schema, we don't have a great way of handling forward and backward compatibility. And so instead, I propose that we propose schema.graphql with a JSON file, which contains the type info or something similar, reducing the number of translation steps the client has to do when parsing. And it also, JSON is very prevalent, so it makes it more portable. And we can also come up with like a clever way of making it compatible. So I went ahead and I really liked how these action items were here. That was super helpful. So I added a label to it. And then what I'm doing now is I realized that this had a dependency on a user story that I hadn't created yet.
Okay.
So this is like a new user story that I had talked to Evan, Yuri, and Chris about, I think like 2 weeks ago, where we want to refactor kind of how the modules are working. And so I started creating, a story item for that, and I'm going to create subtasks. And in that, I'm going to basically finish up this feature proposal because, yeah, the scope of this is I'm gonna actually name this better. Schema build artifact. Well, I don't know. Yeah, like something that I think is better than type info. So I think that we can refactor what type info looks like to make it actually satisfy like more of these requirements. So yeah, some more work to be done here. And yeah, so um, yeah, I'll probably have something like next time we meet to be able to talk more about this.
Great. Great. Good progress.
Quick question.
Yeah.
What about having the built artifacts be binary files, so including the schema?
Yeah. So I think, just starting with JSON, just because it's kind of simple to understand, but then we could, optimize that and we could make it like, message pack or something like that. So yeah, and that would also be nice since the clients will already have message pack. So yeah, that's certainly an optimization we can make.
Okay, multi-step process. I get it.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Yeah, and like the main thing I want to figure out is what should the structure of the data actually look like? Because with these changes here, for the custom named modules, we will be changing what type info looks like, and so I kind of want to just draft up what that new type info would look like, and then see if we can do something clever to make it like future proof and backwards compatible and all that fun stuff for the artifact. Yeah.
Very cool. All right. Who wants to go next?
I'd like to. Yeah. Um. So. Um. So basically, what I've been drafting today is so if you take a look at the issue and what it and the questions that it has in the description, basically it says how will the development process for a new client look like, how will the maintenance of multiple clients look like, and so and so and so. And what we have currently drafted here is the proposed testing architecture, which is definitely important and related, but the first couple of questions are still like completely unanswered, and they need further scoping. So what I attempted to do today was try to condense my thoughts, removing as many implementation details as possible into the way that I think we should be handling those actually. And my proposal is that we reorganize the client differently. I'm not gonna like read through all of this, but basically the idea that I have is that we extract the core functionality from our current JavaScript client, and we have that core functionality implemented into a different language, like Rust, for example, would be, I think, the perfect case. And then this core functionality would be compiled into a standard library, into a C standard library. So, um, so then client implementations would just be what is needed for these core functionalities to be like like properly exposed and orchestrated. Um, so I'm imagining like we have different repositories with you know each client in a different language, but we do have like a central like core client's core uh, library, and since it's a standard C library, we could import and interoperate with this library in the major languages that we want to target next, say Python, Java, Rust. And if at some point like we cannot interoperate comfortably uh, with this library in a certain language, we can look to rewrite the core functionalities, which I think was the first approach that we may have thought about. But I think that we should avoid code duplication like as much as we can, and and functionality rewriting as much as we can. And not only that, but this uh, comes with a hefty performance gain for Python, for example. Um, so so yeah, I've been like fleshing out this idea. Of course, it's just a proposal, um, but I hope that what results of iterations upon this draft could answer the first couple of questions. It's what I've been thinking. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think this looks awesome. And the one thing that I have concerns about is basically like how do we transfer data over the boundary of the like native library?
Mm-hmm.
So, like we'll have to basically figure out where the dividing line is, with the core logic and with the rest of it, and how we actually encode that data so we can pass it over. Yeah, that's kind of like my only point. But yeah, this looks awesome.
Agreed. Agreed. Yeah, I think that where do you draw the circle? Is probably like one of the first questions that we may want to ask ourselves. But if after coming up with a way and deciding that it's worth it, I think that this is probably the best approach. After we have something like this, we can have the usual feature parity matrices like a Apollo client has, like assembly script has, and so. Um, but it would be much quicker for clients to reach feature parity because like core parts of it are already like they don't have to be re-implemented. So yeah, that's my idea.
You mentioned that this would cause a performance gain for Python.
Yes.
Would the opposite be true for something like Go, which is naturally fast, but would then need to deserialize between the Go Rust library? Oh no.
That's a great question. That's a great question. I think that can be studied in a case per case basis. But um, I think that if this works for the majority of the or at least like a good chunk of the languages that we want to target next, if we say like, oh no, like this causes actually a performance cost in languages like Go, um, we could like I suppose that we could re-implement it from scratch, and that would have like a slower roadmap and a slower feature parity matrix.
Yeah, I think that's reasonable.
Yeah, about that, I'm not sure whether that would be much slower because when we create the library, which is called the shared object, it will compile down to the binary of the native machine, right? Then you just need to execute that in native machine. I don't think there would be any any additional cost there. I may be wrong.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you, uh, but but yeah, like this will certainly spark some um, very concrete and targeted research that we could do. I could write down all of these open questions as very concrete, actionable points that we could research into.
Yeah, and just one more point on this is that I don't know, like if this proves to be kind of complicated, I don't know if we would want to hold off building the Python client or the Rust client. I think we'd probably just want to move ahead with those, and then we could always just refactor and use the native library in the future. Yeah.
I agree. I agree 100%. However, one thought on that is like I don't know the capabilities of Python in terms um, of target builds. But I'm pretty sure that if we, for example, implemented the Rust client next, and we want to then move forward with this other approach, and we want to like refactor in the future, I think that it will be easier to extract some functions from the Rust client that we already have, and we wouldn't have to rewrite it because Rust already um, could target to a library like this.
Yep. Yeah. Definitely understood. But yeah, like if we actually look at like the complexity of the core, I feel like it's pretty simple maybe. Like, so like ideally, it would be super simple, and so the code duplication might not even be that much. is kind of like, yeah. But anyway, yep.
Cool. Yeah, agreed.
Would you be able to send us this note so we can incorporate it into the story or into the feature,
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
or
And
just add
yeah.
it? Yeah, description section.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I'll do it right now.
All right, since we have a last 5 minutes and we have everybody here, maybe we can spend 5 minutes looking at the invocation standard um, that Jordan put together this week.
That'd be great.
So I have this pulled up on the screen right now. So Jordan, would you like to walk us through this?
Yeah, sure. So I wasn't sure exactly how to write this. But basically, in the overview, I just wanted to show what a typical invocation would look like. And so here, we have an example function call and just some very basic information saying that the term invoke refers to the act of executing a method exposed by a wrapper module. And then for the options, basically just showing like, what the standard options are. Like we should have an option for the URI, module, method, and the arguments. And then also, a toggle for whether or not we should decode the result or not. This is, I think, like a necessary detail because it really improves performance when passing data between WebAssembly modules. And then down at the invoke result, basically, yeah, it's just outlining what the result type looks like. The generic data and then the error. And then now, I guess, getting into the actual implementation. So this is just some short pseudocode of like what it looks like inside of the client's invoke function where we load the wrapper and then we invoke the wrapper. I didn't detail the loading of the wrapper. And then for the WASM invocation, we load the WASM, we create the instance, we sanitize the environment, and then we invoke the method. And I didn't implement the plugin wrapper invoke. So yeah, like as you can see, like this is just very, very rough, not complete yet. But I was wondering if there's any feedback aside from, like there should be a filled out plugin invoke section and also a filled out, like load section, let's say. I'm curious if there's some general feedback. And yeah, as you can see, we did get some initial feedback, and so I haven't had a chance to actually incorporate that yet. But yeah, anyone else have some initial thoughts?
I'm curious about the modules and should we have submodules?
Uh, yeah, could we scroll up a little bit to where it says modules? Are you referring to on the options or?
Yeah. So we're taking a module and that's a string. This is more of a general question. For example, you know how I mean that's true for TypeScript, but coming from C#, it's even more true where you have namespacing, which can be really, really deep nested, and there's a kind of a combination of a module and a submodule, you know, a namespace and a sub namespace. Should we have in the future submodules? So
Got
namespacing
it.
instead of a single module?
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah, that's interesting. We would have to incorporate that with like that new spec for like user-defined modules. Um, so yeah, I'm not sure exactly what that would look like. So yeah, like that's a potential, and I feel like we should talk about that in reference to the user-defined modules feature.
Yeah, sounds good. Just throwing it out there. Even if we do implement it, it could still be a string, just concatenated with like a couple or something.
Yeah, okay. Sounds good.
Great. I think we're coming up on top of the hour. Just a quick reminder, we have two more workshops today scheduled. We have one coming up in a couple of minutes on the same Discord channel to go specifically over the wrap standard, kind of an overview. And Nestor, Jordan, and Niraj, you're a part of that conversation. Please join when you can. And then 2 hours from now, we have another standards conversation workshop coming up to focus on URI standards, URI resolver, and URI resolution discussions, depending on what we have time for. And that's with Jordan and Yuri. So I'm looking forward to seeing you guys in a couple of minutes and then in 2 hours.
Awesome. Sounds good. Thank you, Joe and Eugene. Talk soon.
Thanks, you guys.
Hey guys.